Hello and welcome back inside the Parc Fermé for podcast number 849. Woo, that's a big number. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camber. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That is exactly what I need you to do. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we're going to cover Formula One news, or what little Formula One news there is, because that's kind of what we do on off race weekends. But before doing that, I have to introduce my co-host. You know what that means. That means I have to go all the way to the right coast of our nation, nestled in our nation's capital, where there was a tornado warning today. Grace is safe. You know her, you love her. It is the lovely, the redoubtable Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You know those cows flying past my window, but we're professionals, right? We're just going to keep going.
Yeah, it's like the movie Twister. We got cows. You know?
No, I mean, you never know. You never know with storms, as you know.
You don't know. Yeah, I live in the
Midwest.
Midwest. I live right at the exit of Tornado Alley. So yes, I kind of get that.
So yeah, a lot of rain. Hail. Some people saw hail. We didn't see any hail, but
yeah, that happens too with tornadoes. It's tornadic.
It is.
You like that word?
I love it. I love
Isn't
it.
that a great
word?
word?
A verb. Tornadic is pretty good.
It's tornadic.
Yeah.
Paul Charsley can be tornadic at times.
Yes, it's a very Jim Cantori kind of word. I do love a good tornadic.
It is. Did you happen to see Paul Charsley in the Heart of Racing winning their class GTD Pro this weekend at Road America?
I saw it on social media.
Really? If you happen to be watching the national broadcast, you'd have seen Paul on the pit wall going,
"Whoa,
wee!"
Yeah.
He was celebrating.
Nice.
And he looked
Very
dashingly
good.
handsome there.
Always,
if I had
always.
hair, which I don't, but if I had hair, I'd wear it exactly like Paul Charsley.
There you go. So no, I was in Detroit this weekend, but different cars.
I know that about you. I know you were there. I know you were a gracious friend attending a wedding. That I
was. And then we had a 2-hour, rain delay because
which was
Baltimore
perfectly fine, because that allowed you to watch MotoGP.
We streamed the MotoGP race, so I still was
Right.
able to keep up on what was going on, but I only watched the main race. But I just felt bad. So Beyonce was in town last night. So all the people at the Beyonce concert, because it was at FedEx Field, where the Washington football team plays. So they all had to hunker down under the bleachers for 2 hours. I'm like, I'm okay with being in Detroit airport, drinking my margarita, eating some pizza while I wait for my flight, So I don't know. It's the summer. I think you just kind of,
it happens.
it's like turbulence, right? It's the summer. It's going to happen.
In the summertime.
Yeah. So, but we got home. It's no problem.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Pink is in town tonight, so hopefully.
Well, there you go. I heard that was a good show.
The tornadic activity hasn't kept her from performing, because that's also outside. I think that's at where the Nationals play. So
see, I think I saw a little video of her where she gets hooked up to these wires.
Yeah.
And then flies all over the stadium.
Oh yeah, she's great. She puts on a great show.
That's what I heard.
Although, much like Cardi B, I hope nobody throws anything at her, because I'm pretty sure she would also.
I saw somebody throw a drink at her.
I know. I'm like,
what's that all about?
So first of all, I don't think you should throw anything at anybody, let
Ever?
alone
Ever.
I don't understand, except Michael Andretti, but he's earned it. But I think otherwise, you paid. I don't understand. You paid money to see Adele. Why are you throwing things at her? That doesn't make sense to me. But I would never throw anything at Cardi B, and she did not play.
Yeah, she threw back.
Yeah, for sure. I was just like, who? That is not.
She chucked a $400 Sennheiser in there at him.
That woman knows what she's doing. That is not who I would. Again, I'm surprised she also didn't just climb into the crowd and be like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So
yeah, well,
you got to choose your fights wisely, I guess. I was just like, you're dumb.
Yeah, that's just a bad move on so many levels.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'll tell you. So hey, have I mentioned our Patreon supporters lately? I'd like to personally thank them. Did you know I got a little house cleaning to do right up front? A little housekeeping right up front on the podcast. Number one, huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. And did you know that you can support us for as little as $1 a month. Okay. If you just go to the website, I know you don't go to the website only in once in a blue moon. But if you go to theparcfermé.com on the right-hand side, it says support us. You can support us in a couple different ways. You can support us because we wouldn't and couldn't do this podcast without you. So huge thank you to them. And then also, Grace, when I'm doing notes, do you find when you're doing work? Well, before I get to that, because that might actually be kind of a funny conversation, let me say this about this. So race reviews, after all these years, I am concerned, and I just want to warn everybody up front, I don't think Paul and I are going to be able to pull off the Italian Grand Prix review. Now, I know that is quite a departure from our 15 years of podcasting, all right? And I get it, but it's circumstances beyond my control. First, Paul is going to be at Goodwood.
Well, I mean...
What are you going to do?
Right? Absolutely. All right, he's excused.
He's a Goodwood, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, that's fine. Todd's there. That's great. Grace, come on, whatever.
Twice in one season, whatever, Paul.
I know. It's a real departure. Now, normally that is what I would do. But see, unfortunately, I don't have a sponsor for the podcast where I would do this podcast like daily, like a radio show every single day. If I had a sponsor and it was my real job. No, I have to have a day job. And my day job is going to find me in West Flanders in Belgium during the Italian Grand Prix.
Wow.
So there you go. However, programming note right up front, I am working on one, possibly two, but definitely one TPF stories that I will release in its place.
All right.
So, and then you got a bunch of listeners saying, what the hell is TPF stories, man? I want to race you. So I did these podcasts. I'm sure you didn't listen to them, but if you go to our website, scroll down in the middle of the website, you'll see 4 episodes of a podcast called TPF Stories. And it's just where I take a second look at the world of motorsport. And maybe you would enjoy them, maybe you won't. But for those of you that do, this is my way of saying I am so sorry for having to miss the Italian Grand Prix review. But I am going to create something for you to digest on that Monday, which is the TPF stories. Okay.
So I went to look up when it is and started typing in Formula One, and it auto-corrected to Formula One blog. So I don't know how. I guess I don't use my computer very often to search for Formula One things.
May want to empty your cache.
Maybe. I'm just like, what? Just automatically corrected for that. That was pretty good. Whoever those guys were.
Formula One blog. Who are those morons?
I might own a few shirts. It's fine.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah,
right.
I got a few stickers and buttons.
Exactly.
So there's the first thing. So, Grace, do you find when you're doing heads down work for your day job, do you tend to listen to music while you're doing work?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Some people do, some people don't.
Yeah. No, I find it distracting. I understand that some people don't.
Yeah, totally. Well, my brother, he'll drive 17 hours all the way from, Missouri down to the southern part of Texas and not even have the radio on,
Oh, okay.
That distracts him. Yeah, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
But that's my brother, he's like that. So some people do, some people don't. I tend to listen to music.
Wait, he just drives in silence?
In silence.
See, that's different.
Stark silence.
That's different than like heads down where I have to, I don't know. I think I'd fall asleep or something. I don't think
telling me.
Audiobook, podcast, music, radio, something.
Something.
I mean, in the old days, because driving to Pennsylvania, you have to go through the mountains, and it's just like, please be something, please be something. Don't be religious music. Please be something, because you're just scanning because there's nothing and you're dying. And
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you get in Oklahoma down there, you could at least listen to the farm report, pork bellies.
Oh yeah, great. That would also either make me hungry or put me to sleep, or both.
So I got to thinking about. So I've been toying around with it. Okay, so let me back up. Just a little something about me you didn't know and really didn't want to know, and nobody asked me. Okay. But for those of you that didn't know, I'm a guitar player, I'm a musician, and love music. It's been a huge part of my life, my entire life, and so I have what I would consider a pretty diverse music palette, right?
Okay.
I mean, if pressed and pushed on the ground and a gun held to my head, I would say Bach.
Okay.
Johann Sebastian. That's it. That's the pinnacle, right?
Okay.
So I'm, Bach fan, of course, classical, love classical, all that good stuff. I'm a rock and roll fan. I love all kinds of genre. I love ambient. I love new wave. I love all kinds, prog rock, you name it. I love all kinds of music. So I listened to music and I was thinking about, I got this website that I created that I was thinking about doing some music stuff. So let me know as if you guys would be interested in talking music, because I think that would be fun. For example, Grace, are you a Keith Jarrett fan? Jazz player, pianist, incredible. Okay.
Sure.
And so what would be fun is things like this. So what I would ask you, if you've heard or listened to, would tell people about me, but they'd also tell me that, or tell those people that you have much better taste than I do because you don't listen to that crap, right? Like if I was to say, have you ever heard Rush's Moving Pictures album?
Yes.
You have?
I'm a percussionist.
Oh, of course you have, Neil Peart. Okay, so see, that makes sense to me. Cheap Trick, Live at Budokan.
I have listened to Chip Trick, but not that particular album.
Okay, all right. Got that.
This feels like so much pressure all of a sudden. We do it like
does.
I do a 2-hour show with you, but I'm like all of a sudden like, God, now what is he going to ask me for?
Oh my God. Okay, Depeche Mode, Music for the Masses.
Of course.
See?
I'm a child of the 80s and the 90s.
There you go. So see, this would tell you a lot about what I listen to, but it also tell where Grace and I parallel and where we deviate on our music, right? So anyway, let us know if you like music. I may fire that up because I think it was a lot of fun. But most Formula One fans are like, shut the hell up and start talking about F1, right?
But I think music is a very we all listen to something. I don't know that I've ever, except maybe your brother, I've ever met a person that's just like I listen to nothing. I like my ear holes to be empty. Although you're listening to a podcast, so I guess you like something in your ear holes. But I don't think I've ever met a person that's just been like, I hate all music.
Music is like the giver of life. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So, and I think that because I think music is a lot like, that's like people are very intimidated by art or they're very intimidated by wine. I'm like, just like what you like. You're the one that has to look at it. If you just want to look at Monet's lily pads because it makes you happy,
perfect.
Look at it.
Perfect.
You should look at other things and then go, I just want a Pinot. That's all I want. That's fine. Try different things, live your life. But man, if you just to look at lily pads, fine.
And you may say, I don't really listen to Keith Jarrett, but I'm an Oscar Peterson fan. Well, hallelujah, Oscar OP is awesome, right?
There you go.
Or you may be younger and say, no, I'm really a Pat Metheny fan. Well, hallelujah, I love Pat Metheny. He's great. If you're a jazz guy. So have you listened to some Pat Metheny?
No.
Okay.
I don't really listen to jazz. I think that's true. That is a genre that is not one I hang out in.
Yeah, see, that's totally cool. So there you go. All right. Fair enough. So while I was crafting these notes, for those musically inclined, okay, so this goes back. I'm a huge prog rock guy. Okay. I love, I know most people hate it. But I
was going to say, I know this about you. I was agreeing because I know this about you.
Yeah, right. So a huge prog rock guy. So I can go down some really pretty disparate rabbit trails on this. So for the musically inclined, yes. And for the percussionists out there like you. So I was always a huge fan of a guy named Eddie Jobson, who is a keyboard violinist. Okay. And he played with UK and King Crimson and played with Jeff Ortol briefly and all that. Okay. One of the seminal albums is his solo album called The Green Album, which is phenomenal. And I bought it the day it came out and wore it out. I went through many copies. There's a song on there because I'm a guitar player, not a drummer. Right. But there's a song on there called Who My Friends Really Are. It starts off with this super, I can't play it because then they would, copyright me on this thing.
Right.
But if you listen to that song, it starts off with a drum pattern. And as a guitar player, I still, after all these years, have no idea what the time signature is for that.
Nobody knows. That's the point of prog rock. Who knows?
No idea. It's like, it's an 8/9. No, I don't know. I've tried to count it out. I'm not a drummer. I have no idea. So for any of you drummers out there, I guarantee you've probably never heard of that album, that artist, or that song. But if you go look for that and listen to that and tell me what time signature. I'll be super impressed. So
I will just add, so I've mentioned before, right? Because we ended up buying electronic drum kit because of watching Drumeo on YouTube, right? That was one of the things we bought during the pandemic. It's great. I highly recommend it. Anyway, so they'll do a lot of like, here's this song broken down, and they'll show you like the sheet music.
Yeah.
And so anytime it's some like, old Genesis or something like that, and it's like, I don't know what that guy just played, and then they show you the sheet music, and you're like, shit, that didn't help me at all. Like,
no idea. Yeah. It's like, same for guitar players. They show us charts. And it's like, okay, so what? Wait a minute. I
thought maybe like I read music. I thought maybe that would help, but did not help. And I don't know. It's. So
did you play tritoms or snare or trap?
So I actually played marimba because.
Marimba, okay.
Yeah, back in the days, because so when you're in band, just in concert band, everybody plays their own instrument unless you're in percussion. And then so if there's like 5 of you, one person plays snare and one person plays like that, you have to like share the instruments. And so it was annoying. So I just played keyboards because then you had to read music. And so I could do that, and I was tall enough that I could reach the end of the marimba. I mean, it was really
nice.
Not scientific way that I ended up playing marimba. And then the other girl that was in percussion, Lorraine, she went and played timpani because I got tired of dealing with dumb boys. That's how that goes.
My high school band, I know this is a total segue, but my high school band thing lasted just a fraction. My buddy was in jazz band, and so he said, "Oh yeah, you ought to be it because you're a guitar player." So I have this 1981 Gibson Explorer E2, translucent red with a fluid rose, right? So I go in there with my amp, and we start to play, and it was like, okay, so it's an F. So I do the whole Alex Lifeson chord in F, the opening of Hemispheres album, and the jazz says, I don't think we're a fit for you. Boom, I'm out. That was the end of my high school band career. But then I played in bands, for years and all that good stuff. So anyway, I love talking about music. Maybe I'll threaten to start this other. I already have the website up, but I'll have to threaten.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that
So let me know if our listeners out there, if you guys are music fans, if you'll make the translation over to a music podcast, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, also we were so as in my high school, you had to be in if you were in marching band, you had to be in concert band.
Yeah, sure.
And I refused to be in concert band because my freshman year I didn't play in the concerts. You know what I mean? Because again, you're a freshman and you share one snare drum, one bass drum, you're right. So it's just like, I'm not going to sit here for 3 more years and not play in any of the concerts, but have to learn all the music and put up with the dumb percussion boys. I'm not doing it. And I refused. And so my band director, Mr. Reed, shout out, was just like, you're supposed to be in concert band. And I told him that, and he kind of looked at me and was like, all right. Like,
yeah, it makes sense.
I'm here. I'm here for whatever argument you have that is, I'll get to play snare drum more, but you don't have one, so I'm not going to do it. This is dumb. This is dumb.
That's
so,
funny.
I never took concert. I was never in concert band.
All right. So those listening, let us know if you're in high school band and what you played.
There you go. I think so. And hopefully
who out there was first chair saxophone?
It wasn't just the trombonists emptying their spit valves on the girls in front of them. That's disgusting.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
I hope maybe guys have risen above this by now. I don't know.
You'd like to think so.
I'm guessing not.
Or in the other words,
you'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would.
Again, I also take that, I thought it was just my brother and his dumb friends that did dumb things. And then YouTube was invented, and I learned, it's all of you.
No.
I don't know how any men have made it to adulthood. You all do dumb stuff.
We did, we were young, exploring the far reaches of our world. We did stupid stuff.
Like my brother would fall out of trees, and I'm like, you're dumb. Why would you do that?
Yeah, my brother did that.
Like, where did you, like, how did you see this going? Like, in the Doctor Strange, like, I saw 274 paths. All of them led to you breaking your arm. Why did you think this was a good idea? Like, I'm home all summer just as bored as you are, and I didn't fall out of a tree.
Yeah.
I found something better to do with my time.
We were like go-karts, and then my brothers convinced me that it was far better to bypass the governor on the engine and just put a string from the from the carburetor to the foot pedal, and then we were doing like 80 miles an hour. What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. Exactly. That's why I'm
what
like,
could possibly go wrong?
You don't need to be Doctor Strange to figure out this is a bad idea. So I just think YouTube that's what it showed me, that I really don't know how any men make it to adulthood, because y'all need more to do in the summer.
Yeah. Suffice it to say, if we do get to adulthood, we've seen some shit.
Yeah. For sure. Sure.
And we've been through it,
I mean, girls have their own drama, but that's not it.
Yeah. It's different.
I was just like, I just thought my brother and his dumb friends thought, we're going to jump off the roof into the pool. What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong? I know.
I'll just dial 911 and hover I don't even think we had 911 back then, but I'll dial most of the numbers and just wait.
Yeah, and wait. Yeah.
Because you're dumb.
It's true. All right, let's talk about some Formula One news. That's what you're here for, not to listen to my festering pie hole going on about music and crap.
Don't listen to the off-season shows.
Speaking of music, I know exactly. I know many of you haven't heard this in a long time, and you're dying to hear this song.
Lewis Hamilton, there's no stopping him.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's been a long time since we had the Lewis Hamilton Fashion Award. I did get an email saying, I miss some of the old, like when we talk about Maldonado.
That's strange. I wonder what's causing all the accidents.
Yeah. These are old sound bites that I don't get the chance to play anymore. And they're like, I miss Elizabeth. Anyway, all right, let's talk about Formula One. The first thing we're going to talk about is the have-nots in Formula One. All right. Now, the day that James Vowles walked into his new role as team boss at Williams, I mean, one thing must have been very clear, having come from Mercedes, no doubt. And that is the total lack of tools, machines, and equipment to compete with the other teams on the grid, right?
Yeah.
The lack of current facility capabilities led James to seek more freedom with their capex, their capital expenditures, in order to upgrade their facility and equipment, which is the capex is currently pegged at $36 million over 4 years. And unfortunately, James and Williams is really behind the 8 ball,
right?
And haven't been investing. I'm going to say this as polite as I can. The team was on life support when Claire was still there, and they were just trying to manage to make paycheck and make payroll and end up black at the end of the year. So as far as investing in new, autoclaves and wind tunnels and all that, it is just
they couldn't pay their employees, right?
Yeah, that was just totally not in the cards for Williams at the time. So this is, so Doralton comes in, they have infusion of cash, and they brought in some people, but it wasn't really, gaining a lot, the kind of traction that they wanted. So they brought in James Vowles, who I think by anyone's measure has done a bang-up job already. So the F1 Commission met to discuss the matter, and Vowles was hoping a deal could be struck allowing smaller teams to have some increased room in their capex to update their facilities and capabilities in order to compete with the big teams, right? Now, James, it must be said up front, that James is no junior leaguer here. He's no junior league F1 guy. And he knows that the teams will now want to be losing out to other teams. And in the end, this is kind of what happened. It seems that no agreement could be reached as other teams use the opportunity to seek large capex freedom for themselves, as well as Williams. So James said this, quote, "It's unfortunate and it's disappointing, frankly, that we're in a situation where, again, that meeting, I would argue, went round in circles, if nothing else. And to a certain extent, it will do, because everyone in that room wants to make sure that they're not losing out relative to everyone else," end quote.
First of all, you read that with way too much inflection.
Yeah, right. I kind of need to do a muffled, like his mic on the pit wall when they have him as the guest.
Exactly.
So, they do a muffled. It's unfortunate, disappointment, and frankly, that's a little bit more. James, you got to get a new headset, new mic, so we can hear you.
They don't have the capex for that.
They don't have the money. Damn it. What do you want for them?
They have a Mr. Coffee that was $20 in the 50s, like.
Exactly.
They ain't got that.
They got a Mr. Coffee with the little filters that they're almost out of, and
They're just using pieces of paper off the coffee machine and kind of like shaping it
hey,
in
how many tablespoons of coffee do I put in for a pot?
half a can.
Just
We're
do
using pieces of
half
paper.
because we're almost out of coffee.
Oh,
Yeah, this is where we are. This is what they've driven him to, right?
gosh, right?
Poor James. I feel
love-
you. Well, hey, listen, the interesting take on all of this is from former boss, James's former boss, who also happens to be selling James his engines, Toto Wolff. And he said this, quote, why the CapEx discussion came up is that a team, Williams, said their infrastructure is subpar and they wouldn't be able to catch up with trivial things like machine equipment and up to the technical things like simulators, he said. That was the starting point of all discussions. Then, as a consequence, some teams jumped on the bandwagon to say, but actually, we would like to have a little bit more capex. And that number went from 50 million to 60 million to 70 million to 90 million. And suddenly, it was like free reign. And why don't we change the capex levels? But there's no reason to do that. I think there is one team we need to treat differently than all the others, end quote.
And that's my team.
And well, it's my customer's team who right now is net 120 on their engine supply, right?
Because I'm not getting paid.
Because I'm not getting paid.
Right.
Yeah, right, right.
Because I need my money. So,
James, all right, I'm going to vote for you in the F1 commission. But, dude, if you get the increase, that invoice has to be paid first.
right. That's the first thing on your desk. Pay for that.
Exactly. So even with
yeah.
Toto backing him up, still couldn't come to an agreement. So what's going to be done? Well, the group tried to then look at a case-by-case basis, and they set about to create a list. But Toto says that didn't work either. He said, quote, we came up with a list. Some of the big teams said, we don't want a list. And if Williams gets stuff, we want to have stuff. And that was simply shut down. We need stability of regulations on financial relations, and you need to be able to have a business plan that is valid and not free reign every 2 years where we change the goalposts on capex. So that's why this was the end of the capex discussion, but maybe we'll find a solution for Williams, end quote.
Yes, they need to find themselves a Larry to pay for their team. We just need nine more Larrys, and this problem is solved.
Well, they have Doralton, but Doralton's no Larry.
He's no Larry. I'm just saying that I think that what the argument I'd like to see, what I'm going to envision this meeting in my head is Ferrari going, but we're just as low in the points as Williams are.
Right.
We need to up our capex too.
Right. They're saying, no, this is just for Williams. And Ferrari's like,
no, it cannot be, Ricky.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like somehow Ferrari would for sure, even though because they have the most money, would still find some reason why they need more of this money. Yeah. See all those problems they have? We have those too.
We have them too.
Speaking of problems with Ferrari, and then we'll get back to this story because of course I have more about this story too, but I really wanted in Spa after cats are creating havoc in Spa after Carlos Sainz, got knocked out and they showed him like on the radio. I really wanted him to just like, Charles, this is your new engineer. I'm the new strategist. I am Carlos Sainz. We're going to go with plan D unless you want to go with plan F. Oh, we're checking. I just, because he has that like pause in his voice that I just think would have been hilarious if that was the first thing Flip and I were both just like, I am Carlos Sainz. I will be your strategist now.
Right. Plan D, let us know.
Or F,
Yeah.
We're checking. I think that would be great. So also, I will also put out there, if people are not watching James Vowles' videos that he does for Williams, I love every single one of them.
They're great.
He did one where he was like, It was for Williams' anniversary, and so they got all the people out, like out in the field, like they do, like we've seen McLaren do that, right? They get all the people out in the field, and they, you know, they spell out a big W and whatever, and they make James Vowles get up on a ladder with a megaphone. Now, first of all, this is hilarious because clearly he's not Toto Wolff. He's an engineer. He's an introvert. He's not really enjoying this moment. But he's trying, right? Like, it's like me trying to understand the conversation about jazz music. I'm trying. I'm with you. I'm going to download some stuff. I'm going to work on this. But this is not James's thing. But everything he puts out, I love because he's just trying to explain it. And it's so monotone. And he's my new favorite. So
no, he's great.
I love it.
So the matter now is set for further discussion of the F1's Financial Advisory Committee. Now, on one hand, you can understand the desire to help a smaller team like Williams out as they start to gain traction with their new boss and their performance is improving. In short, Dorilton's move with James moved the team into what I would consider a legitimate concern, whereas before the team was on life support. Surely, what could be wrong with helping Williams get back to a level of potential competitiveness instead of languishing in its historical cash-starved position, right? On the other hand, if you're a competitor and you feel you could use an extra $50 million to improve your facilities or toolboxes,
right?
These possible cost cap increases are few and far between, so you're going to press hard for an increase for all teams, not just for Williams. You know, it's the old, it's the same for everyone sort of phrase that you often hear in Formula One.
Except it's not in Formula One at all. That's great.
Yeah, it's not. You know, that's what they always say. It's the haves and the have-yachts, right?
Correct. But wouldn't that be great? Couldn't you just see, and by great, I mean drama, like great Drive to Survive drama, that like suddenly AlphaTauri's like, well, if Williams gets money, why don't we get money?
Wow, we're sucking this year.
We're terrible. We should get more money. Yes. Right. Not the same.
Not the same. So watch this space. We'll see if James can get some cash. I don't know.
Let's just buy that man a nice coffee machine.
I agree.
Like a nice Italian espresso machine.
Yeah, that would be good for him.
Something. I mean, I just feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's doing the hard work down there at the end of the grid, and
he is doing.
I think it's been great too having Alex there. I think that for sure helps that team as well. I think that
absolutely, I totally agree.
Positioned in a good place, and yeah, we all want the best for Williams. So yeah, I'm all for it. Give them more money.
Who doesn't want the best for Williams? My dog even wants the best for Williams.
I know. See?
I know. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy. My dog, Buckley, he's happy. All right, let's talk about your boy, shall we?
Sure.
One, Lando Norris.
Yes.
Lando's got a bit of a conundrum. I was reading an article over at Sky Sports about Lando Norris and the new pace that McLaren have found.
I've noticed.
Yeah, most people have. Which may play a factor in his staying with the team. Now, he has a contract through 2025 with all the stipulations, I'm sure, regarding performance clauses, etc. Now, clearly, I've not read his contract, but it's fair to assume that his deal is similar to others where both the team and drivers have a performance clause that provide an out should either one not meet some stated level of performance, and there would be copious language around what that contract or in that contract explaining what the exit could look like or should. But in the article, it quotes Lando contemplating his future at McLaren, and he said, quote, "But in the back of my mind, there's that impatient game of, do I stick it out for another few years, or is it time to look for something different? But the more we achieve things like we have done over the past few weeks, the more I'm very confident with the decision I made to stay until 2025. And the more confident I am that we can achieve our goals together in the future." So,
yes,
my question is, to that point, what do we all think? Do we think, given there are 4 engine makers that teams like McLaren or Aston Martin, do we think you have 4 works teams, 4 engine makers, everybody else buys engines, do we think McLaren or Aston Martin can beat the engine makers at their own game? Could you see either McLaren or Aston Martin beating Mercedes or even Red Bull for the title? Now, at first blush, before you answer, you might say yes, because McLaren Mercedes was a great partnership for many years, and they won a lot of races and titles. But things have changed with the
Well,
whole
that was
new power unit.
20 years ago.
Yeah, and back in the V8 era, right? So things have changed under the new power unit era, or have they? Could Aston Martin, with its massive investment, be an actual real contender? That's the big question that I haven't seen answered yet. Ferrari, Renault, Mercedes, Honda was left. Now you got Red Bull, potentially Honda coming back, Audi. But the big question is, do we think the customer teams, McLaren, Aston Martin, Toro Rosso, Haas, do we think they have a legitimate reason with the manufacturer's engine to beat a manufacturer? And, this year started off good with Aston Martin beating Mercedes, right? So you're thinking, hey, this is a real possibility, right?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like, let me ask you as a McLaren fan, do you feel like McLaren could take that Mercedes lump and gearbox as Toto would sell it as is with software, but Toto's over here, writing magic software and doing all kinds of stuff. Do you think that McLaren in this day and age could take that Mercedes and outperform in the chassis design development and beat Mercedes, Red Bull, and the other teams?
I'm going to borrow a paraphrase from MotoGP, which is a satellite team cannot beat the first team. So while, yes, Formula One does not have the same kind of system as the primary team and the secondary team or the satellite team, your satellite team cannot do better than your primary team. Right? So because Pecco Bagnaia is going to be pretty mad, right? Like that's just not okay. And so I think on one hand, the question is, do I think that McLaren and Aston Martin could do it? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But will Mercedes let them? No. Right?
Yeah.
Because you can't have a satellite team beating your team. That's just not, it's not acceptable for Mercedes. I mean, we've already seen twice the meme of, Toto Wolff storming down pit lane. And, first it was like Toto Wolff going to McLaren to get his engine back. And then it was Toto Wolff going to Williams to get his engine back, right? Like that's unacceptable. So of course I believe in McLaren and of course I believe in Aston and I believe that they could do it, but I don't think that they will. I don't see where their primary team is going to say, sure, go ahead, beat us.
Yeah. It's that notion that, everyone should do good, but not too good. Right.
Correct. So, that's what they want. If you're Mercedes, you want a B team, even though we don't have B teams, but we do have B teams to do as well as your primary team. Then they're not your B team anymore, right? That's not how that works. And so,
yeah, it'd be interesting because there's always development and stuff that happens within that power unit gearbox and all that for reliability reasons, and who gets those, I don't know. Well, it's a big question. We could argue all night, but regardless of the if, the question actually might be where would Lando go if not McLaren? I think much of that depends on how things unfold. If Alonso retires, Renault gets their act together, Lewis retires, Ferrari need yet another change for some reason, where might Lando be a really good fit? And to be honest with you, I think he is a good fit at McLaren.
I think the answer is there is nowhere for him to go. So welcome to Formula One, everybody. This is always the problem. Like, even if you watch Drive to Survive, Daniel Ricciardo's whole career. That's the problem, right? So, or Fernando Alonso's career, right? Like, I don't know where else he would go.
Yeah.
Don't go to Ferrari. That's not going to help Carlando, right? Like, that's not going to help. I don't think he fits at Red Bull. I don't want him to go to Red Bull. I think that's such a toxic team. Anyway, and their personality, I don't like that for Lando.
That's what we had all these listeners and viewers going, what is Grace's deal with Red Bull and why is she so mean about Red Bull? They're like calling you out to the carpet on that one.
I'm fine with that. It's called fandom. First of
Yeah.
all, I don't work for Autosport. I am allowed to have my own opinions. And I feel that it's been consistent since the day they arrived in the pit lane that I am not a Red Bull fan. This is not new. I'm a McLaren fan. That's also not new.
Right.
Fandom people. But no, I just don't. I don't know. I think, and especially while Max is there, I just think it's even more toxic of a work environment that I don't think that will suit him. I think everybody wants to win. Maybe Mercedes. I guess that's the only
Mercedes?
other place. Because of course you want to win a championship. That's anybody who's in any sport wants,
Yeah,
whether
for
it's
sure.
basketball, baseball, whatever. You always want to go to the team that's going to win you a championship.
Right.
But in Formula One, that's such a rarity. There's such
Mhm.
dominance. You have to catch the wind at the right moment or something. Again,
Yeah,
look
you
at
do.
Fernando Alonso, right?
Yeah.
By
Right
far
place, right
top-rated
time.
top-rated talent. Nobody, I just think the idea of that's a cautionary tale. Like what would Alonso do? Do the opposite, right? I think that he's finally, thankfully, going to end his career. Hopefully, I mean, he will end his career in the next couple of years, hopefully on a high note. Like I think if he just stays
Yeah.
with Aston, I think that works for him. He hasn't completely turned on Lance yet. I mean, he still has time, but he's already shivved Ocon by this point in last season. So
Right.
so far, him and Lance still have a friendship of some sort or a partnership of
So
some sort.
called.
But to the point that it's been kind of happy fun, Alonso. We saw one day at Spa during the sprints where it was like old school sad Alonso, and then it was back to, hey, race day, we're great. I'm Alonso. So I think that would be good for him to stay there. Renault, I like that you put in, will Renault get its act together? Really? Much like I've been watching Red Bull since they arrived in the pit lane.
But they got Ryan Reynolds now.
I know nobody can see my facial expression if you're listening to this, but you're just going to have to envision the fact that, that's what it's going to take. Ryan Reynolds. Help me, Tom Cruise. I don't think that's going to do it.
It is.
Help me, Tom Cruise!
Yeah, it's a little infusion, a little pep talk from Ryan Reynolds to get you motivated.
Maybe they need a pep talk from James Vowles, but I don't see Renault has never. This is the closest they've been to almost full sending it, and they still cannot fully send it. They will not. They're Renault.
Yeah.
They're the worst. Don't go to Renault. Lando.
0506, the halcyon days.
If you're listening to this show, don't go to Renault. Don't do it. Don't go. I mean, maybe I would love Carlos and Lando to be together.
Carlando.
Maybe. I would love them.
I got the option for you. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
Carlos and Lando to Audi.
Oh, I like that. That
See?
could be interesting.
Carlando at Audi.
That would be fun.
That'd be fun.
I maybe give it a couple years. I mean,
Yeah, 2026.
How old is Carlos? Because he's always older than I think. I mean, he's been around.
Well, he's
for
got a
long time.
contract through end of next year at least.
All right, I know, but you don't want to be. You don't want to go there the first. It's like buying the first year the model of a car comes out. Don't buy the first one, right? Like you want it to kind of work its gremlins out first.
Did you buy the first year of the Pontiac Aztec?
Yeah.
Oh.
Told you, man. Never buy the first year.
Yeah, that's not
Aztec.
good.
That's great.
Is that the world's ugliest ever made car?
Oh yeah.
It's got to
for
be
sure.
there. Yeah.
For sure.
It's horrible this idea.
I don't know.
Speaking
It's
of
very sad.
brands and branding, let's talk about that.
All right, let's do it.
We know that Red Bull isn't selling Alpha Tauri,
Right?
but there are to be changes. We know that as well. Namely, one Franz Tost is out as the team boss, and one Laurent Mekies is in as team boss. And the aero and other key development will be more aligned, shall we say, with Red Bull's program in the UK.
Right.
So we know that these are some of the big changes, but we also know that there will be a team name change. Apparently, those $1,200 leather jackets and $200 shirts at AlphaTauri are doing just fine without the F1 team peddling their goods. So there's going to be a name change. We also know that they won't go back to the name Toro Rosso because, let's face it, why go backwards when you can create some other obscure brand like Super Aguri or Racing Point Ford India, right?
Right.
So
Oh, please be super Gurry. That would be great.
Wouldn't it be great? But wait, before you get all snippy about this,
Yeah.
there is a large potential. And for me, if it's done right, it could be the best team name on the grid. You see, apparently Red Bull are in talks with one Hugo Boss,
Right.
who currently sponsor Aston Martin, about becoming, get this, a title sponsor for AlphaTauri. Now, this is important for the brand name, of course, but I'm very pleased to see the concept of a title sponsor come back to Formula One. We haven't seen that since the Vodafone McLaren days, Grace. I mean, yes, there's the Oracle Red Bull and Petronas AMG, but those are sponsors. I'm talking about a full-throated Vodafone deal. Like back in 2008, get this, folks, in 2008, the Vodafone deal was worth $75 million, folks. So we're talking about very real, serious title sponsor programs and title sponsor money, right? So I hope that's what Boss might do. And if they do, Boss F1 has a particularly nice ring to it. Huh?
They'll come up
Or
with
there's some rumors that Orland, their current sponsor, is also rumored to maybe do a title sponsor, and that might be Orland F1, which is awful close to Zoran GP, which is okay.
That's the Zoran GP is the
Zoran
best
GP
one,
is
though.
the best.
I can't believe he missed that opportunity.
I know.
Zoran.
I know.
Your name is Zoran. Why wouldn't you go
Zoran. Yeah.
Boss Zoran GP? Yeah, I like Boss F1.
Boss F1.
You might want to be a little further up on the grid if you're going to call yourself Boss F1,
Boss?
but
Yeah.
you shouldn't be
You know,
like
you could just
third from the back.
your logo could be like the backside of like the team boss with a 50 no caster strapped around his back like the boss.
Yeah.
Just
Right. I
play
got
it
you.
up.
Born in the
Yeah.
USA. Red
Yep.
handkerchief. Yeah.
You got it.
I think that it's never going to be as good as a snake eating a human man. That's always going to be the best
That's
logo.
a good one.
It's going to be tough to beat that. But
Yeah, Alfa Romeo's got the best logo, but
I do think there's a lot there you could work with. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
classic bosses. You could change
I
your
mean,
livery up all the time.
the Hugo Boss, brand, design, and everything is very distinctive. Their font,
Yeah.
very distinctive and all that. But they could come up with a really cool logo outside of just the distinctive font and typeface that they
Yeah.
use for their logo. But you could just Boss F1 and come up with a really cool logo, like a
You know, they're
serpent
gonna-
eating a man.
They're going to go with like Hugo F1. Like the opposite of what we
They
just
probably
recommended
would.
is what they're going to go with.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
missed opportunity yet
Hugo
again.
F1. The Hugo Knots.
No.
No. Anyway,
We're
watch
like-
this space because it's all going down, folks.
Botas
all-
and the Huguenots.
Boss and Botas. The Botas Boss F1.
I just think, maybe
like it.
now, maybe there's somewhere we can
Maybe
make
there's
this
some
work.
hope for Botas because his name's very close to Boss.
Well, and I think Valtteri, I think he's really just here for the vibes. He is all in on the like, you want me
Did-
to do this? Sure, I'll do
Did
that.
you see him in Colorado vacationing? And
Yeah.
there he was on like a bridge of a trawler or something, and they had a captain there saying, "Well, this is where we think the Edmund Fitzgerald went down." I don't know
Yeah,
what he
right.
was doing,
Who knows?
but he was just there. But he looked intently listening, like,
He's
okay, so what's the depth finder? What are we doing here?
yeah, right. I mean, I think that I don't know, maybe as a Formula One driver, he's perfected that. Like, yes, engineer, I understand what you're talking about. That
Yeah,
sounds
right.
great. You're right. That noise that the car is making, that's exactly what it's doing.
Yes,
I don't,
Boss Wayne. Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
I don't
Sure.
know.
Yeah.
Trim the thing and the spinnaker thing and sail
I don't
close
know.
to the wind. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Right.
I'm
But
not,
not
too
too
good
close.
with that. Not too close to
think-
the wind.
I think, but yeah, I think that he did do it was a great shot of like, now look intense, like blue steel, right? Like, it was
Yeah,
a
he
very-
was.
He was very into
Yeah.
it.
I like to think he was saying, well, if I pull this lever all the way back, we're doing about 2,800 horsepower. See,
There you go.
I would think he'd be in the engine side of that.
Yeah.
But all right, let's talk about some silly season. This is crazy. Summer season always means silly season, folks.
I don't know. It's going to have to be pretty good to top last year, though.
I couldn't even
mean,
keep
last
track
year-
with an abacus last year. It was
Last
crazy.
year we were 2 days in and it was like, what?
I know. I know. 2 days in, and honest to God, it was crazy. There's bombs going off everywhere in silly season last year.
I believe that was
just
Otmar's
crazy.
career that you just heard.
Yeah, it was.
Again.
Yeah. Or his head.
Yeah.
So every summer, if you're new to Formula One, every summer, it's silly season and all these contracts get. So let's just break down some of the rash rumors that are out there circulating about silly season. Because, folks, if you're newer to F1, it isn't so much the actually what happens. The rumors are what is hilarious. This is just where people sit to just make crap up.
That is true in every sport. I watch
It
a lot
is.
of ESPN, right? Like Stephen A.
I
Smith
apologize.
makes his entire living off of just making stuff up. So
Yeah.
it's
So
not just Formula One, man.
No,
really
it's
sports.
not. So here's some of that. So the rumor has it that Carlos Sainz may be talking to Audi about
Okay.
moving to that team for their entry in 2026.
I mean,
No, I was wrong. No, I was right. His Ferrari contract runs to the end of 2024. Yeah, I was right on that.
I mean,
one.
I think if you're Carlos Sainz, that's a good idea. You knock on wood, it can't possibly get worse.
No, and they're
right?
all in with Charles. We know that.
Yeah. So right. So you're never going to be their number one.
Right.
You're
Go to
already
Audi and be number one.
at least if you go to Audi, you'll have a strategist. You won't have to be your own strategist. That has to be an upgrade, right? Like you'll have somebody to carry your luggage. You won't have to carry it yourself.
Right.
So
You'll have a bellhop.
right. That in and of itself has to help. I mean,
Mr. Herman. Mr.
Aw,
Herman.
Herman.
Pee-wee.
ugh.
Ugh.
Anyway, that's we'll save that for next
All
week.
right.
That's its whole own podcast.
That's a whole. I know. I'm
So-
trying to make a phone call. Yes, I agree. You know what the next rumor is?
Yeah.
The rumor also suggests that Mick Schumacher is angling for the other Audi seat.
I think Mick Schumacher is angling for any seat possible.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
And like if there's an empty seat, and especially now that Ricciardo has a seat.
I
It's
know,
like,
and there's
who
a lot of
else- who else do we
people
need in a
saying
seat?
Logan Sargent, he's terrible. Get him out. Put Mick over there with Alex. And it's
I
like,
don't-
well, no, that's
I
kind of.
don't know that Logan Sargent is terrible. I think he's
No,
getting his sea legs.
He's trying. Yeah, he's trying hard.
Yeah. It's not easy
Let's
to-
see what other. Oh, rumors suggest that Haas could be looking for 2 new drivers, but I'm not sure why that is because their drivers aren't the issue. I guess let me preface that by saying their drivers are the least of their issues at Haas, unless their drivers are too expensive. That yes, that's a big issue.
But the problem is, like you were saying, is right. That's the least of their problems is their drivers. Their bigger problem is they're never going to say that out loud.
No.
You can't call Gene on the phone and go, "Well, Gene, our drivers are the least of our problems." That's just not gonna.
It's not gonna.
It's not gonna cut it. Gene is not here for that. So, I mean, we should put Mick Schumacher back in that car. Boy, wouldn't that be fun for
Yeah,
everybody but
would.
Mick Schumacher? But would be fun.
Yeah, it would be.
Don't do it.
Then finally,
yeah.
in the silly season, it all comes down to the man, Lewis's contract.
There you
Now,
go.
I assume Lewis and Mercedes will ink a new 2-year extension to his contract in the neighborhood of somewhere between $40 and $50 million a year. But the deal still isn't done. And then there's an article over at O2 Sport that says the issue may be Lewis's desire for a sweetheart post-racing career as an ambassador of Mercedes, banking on his social media platform as a lucrative carrot on the end of the stick, which somehow I erroneously calculated as like $6 trillion per follower. Now,
Wasn't that the same sticking point in the last contract?
well, I think this has been lingering on the fringes of every contract for the last
All
two.
Right.
Now, I've said for 3 years now that I would move on from Lewis and I would find a more affordable driver to team with George for the future. But that's just me. I don't have the relationship elements that Toto and the team do with Lewis and all that history with Lewis and what he's done for the team and what you've done for him. I don't have any of that. I have the luxury of sitting on a couch and saying, oh, heck, I'd move on. Yeah, that's a lot easier said than done.
Let's put Lewis at Haas.
Perfect.
I'm gonna watch
Or
that
Audi.
Drive to Survive. No. We're gonna put
Haas
him at
would
Haas.
be better.
That would be.
Well,
that
everybody
is-
says that it's not the car with Lewis, it's all Lewis, so you could put him in Haas. And legitimately, you'd have expectation he's going to win races.
I can't wait. He would just like smack the phone out of Gunther's hand. I'm going to
He
talk
would.
to Gene, right?
He
Like,
would. Right.
that would be great.
So this is the thing. Now, I said that I would do that. That's easy for me to say, but my
Right.
comments are just purely financial. Having said that, if I had a whole Helmut Marko approach to this, right? Like zero empathy on it, that's what I would do. Now, having said that, I also said I wouldn't touch that post-racing career as an ambassador thing for millions of dollars per year. I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole. I'm
Sign this
sorry.
moment.
I'm sorry. Wouldn't do it. Because those millions could be used for the team, for team personnel raises, for development and new drivers. Just having Lewis run around and talk nice about Mercedes would not do it. And no way, no way. Now,
1,000 points of light. Not
Yeah.
going to do it.
not gonna. Mercedes and their brand is doing just fine. Now, what I found interesting about that is Toto's comment about the post-racing career limit. Here's what he had to say, quote, "We're not talking about an ambassadorial role post his retirement, nor is that part of the contract negotiations. I think he has many years to go as a driver within this team, and therefore it's only about cleaning things up in the contract. I know it looks a little bit uncertain, and this is not being done and dusted, but it's simply just down to trivial things that just need to be cleaned up in his contract." Now, that is a really good move by Toto. I think it's a shrewd way of saying, hey, we'll talk about your post-racing career when
Right.
when we get there, right? Right now, we're going to focus on racing. I'm not going to sit here and sign a sweetheart deal post-racing ambassadorial because I don't know how we're going to get along in 2 years after racing, right? But once we get to the point where you're no longer going to race, then we could talk about the ambassador. And to be honest with you, it's a way of shelving that, and they're not going to do it. I don't see him doing it. Or if it is, it'd be a radically reduced price for that. But
And it could be.
I could be wrong.
It could. No, that's not what I was going to say. I mean, I guess you could be. I was going to say it also could just be, brinkmanship by both of them. So we always talk about how Lewis complains about his tires. Oh, surprise. The more Lewis complains about his tires,
The better he does.
right, the less bad his tires are, right? Like
Right.
maybe it's strategory, and then every time he says Bono my tires, that actually means Bono my tires are great, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
there's some strategery involved in all of this. So I think
Right.
that it makes it better, it makes it more dramatic, it sells more likes, whatever, if Lewis and Toto are going back and forth and really intense. They probably signed it like, months ago. Or
Yeah. And I'm not taking anything away from Lewis at all. If I'm Lewis,
no, I don't
I'm
see
like-
that that's what you're doing, right?
I'm saying absolutely. Look, you've given a lot to the team. You're not
Mm-hmm.
winning now. They're asking you to do a couple more years on a team that, as far as you know, is behind the eight ball. You're here to win. You're a seven-time champ. All those things. If I'm Lewis, I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? I do. All right, I'll do 2 years, but I want a 10-year ambassadorial role where you pay me $20 million a year or whatever it is. More power to him. I just don't think Mercedes will do it.
No, and he should ask for it.
He should, absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
I think, right. So I think the thing is that we'll know things have really gone south when Lewis stops being so positive about the team. In
Yeah,
their
we
worst
will.
moment, he's very positive. So
Yeah.
I just don't buy that there's any
Yeah.
sort of this. This is just building drama to sell
Yeah.
this story.
And he
I don't-
has a tendency, he's very good at dog whistling his platform.
Yeah.
If he's not happy with exactly what's going, he has sort of ways of putting a little pressure on the team by dog whistling a little bit.
Right.
And then
That's-
Team LH goes and attacks, and he does that. So
So I think they'll sign it. It'll be fine. But
Yeah,
it benefits everybody at Mercedes to make it seem like it's not a done deal, right?
Yeah.
That's not good for anybody if it's just like, oh yeah, we had coffee and we signed it and we're done.
it'll be
We
a
actually
2-year
signed it,
deal
like,
for
Yeah,
Lewis,
2 months
I
ago.
think.
Whatever. So
Yeah. So, all right, let's do some Albon's cats. Woo!
That's strange. I wonder what's causing all the accidents.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
All right, Grace. Give us some Albon's cats.
good old Pastor Maldonado. This is something. Hopefully we'll never see the likes of again. I was just like, I don't know. I wouldn't say people missed it, but there's a lot of like good memes based on that.
I know.
Bring the
missed
car
out.
back then, please, Pastor.
Yeah. I know.
First hand. Always the best being Pastor Maldonado being lifted up, right? Like by
Yeah.
Alonso and Raikkonen for winning. Like that's the greatest moment ever in his history. So Pastor
Yeah.
Maldonado, kids,
There you go.
check it out.
I shared an elevator ride with him, or a lift. Sorry, my British friends, a lift.
You know.
Nice guy. We had a chat. Nice guy.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure he is a nice person. That's
He was.
not the point.
Yeah, he was.
Not a great driver. Totally
Very
different skill
white
set.
teeth.
All right.
Hmm.
Okay. So for Albon's cats, so I as we mentioned at the top of the show, I was able to catch the MotoGP race. So it was the British Grand Prix, and which meant that both Lando and Oscar were there, checking it out. And because we already knew that Lando was a big MotoGP fan,
Yeah.
big Rossi fan. So I like that he's bringing his friends along. That's it's always good. Get more people into the sport.
It is.
Yeah. So I know who won the sprint because they always, they kind of do the best of the sprint when they start all right, hey Kat, and they start the race. But yeah, big day for Aprilia, big day for, spoiler alert, big day for Alicia Spargo. I also, because we were watching the streaming, and so you can pay for internet on the, you can pay for Wi-Fi on the plane, but you can't stream over it, right? So it was just like, we're like, please people, that's right. You can't find space for your luggage. That's right. You have to bring it all the way back off the plane so they can check it. That's right. Like the longer this takes, the closer. Because we're like, counting down. Like we got 2 laps to go. Like don't shut the door yet. Because once you shut the door, I won't know who won. So it was a great race. But I haven't watched any of the post race because Alicia Spargo, I'm for sure, was elated and never stopped talking. So. I'm sure that post-race celebration was great. The Moto 3 race was also supposed to be really good, but I didn't watch that yet. But I'll get there. But long story short, those of you who have put up with this MotoGP conversation, what I think, because both sports take a 4-week break, right? So we're now on the Formula 1 break. I think this is what always should happen, is that MotoGP and Formula 1 shouldn't line up.
Exactly.
Like I like that MotoGP took theirs, and they had 5 weeks because they had a race that was canceled, right? So it was only supposed to be 4, but I ended up with 5. Which now I feel like MotoGP is like when they split seasons of TV shows, like they split Sopranos in half. I'm like, what happened in the first half of this season? I don't even know. It's like,
Right.
It was so long ago. So it's like a whole year has passed between the first half and the second half of the season. But now I have something to watch and focus on while Formula 1 is on break. And I had something to watch and focus on while MotoGP was on break. So if y'all are listening who can do anything about the schedule, I think this is great. Let's not have everybody take off August. Let's have one set take off in July, one set take off in August. I think
agree.
that sounds great. Keeps me something to watch.
I like it. You want some no shit headlines?
Absolutely. That's what I came here for. You make me talk through this whole hour and a half of a show just to get to the best part.
Get to the no shit headlines. This is a great one. Why Ben Sulayem pushes on the new team process despite F1 criticisms.
Isn't that his job?
It kind of is.
I'm
But
not
see,
even
the
sure-
teams don't want 11 teams. My second headline, Bull Sulayem wants works teams from USA and China in F1. And then the third one is Formula One still at odds with FIA over 11 team talks.
My favorite quote was we already have an 11 team because we're shooting this movie.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. You already have 11
Oh.
teams, huh? Anyway, I just think that
Yeah, I saw that. I thought, oh, really? Oh, come on. That's pretty weak.
yeah, that's how I felt about that too. But I just think this is again all just a way to fill some space. They've already decided, much like, Mercedes contract with Lewis, right? This is just idle conversation. They're either going to do it or not do it. And I think as we talked in a previous podcast, I don't know, like all this talk is about business, right? Do the teams lose money if you bring on another team? Can another team pay that money? So that there's this is all the business side of bringing on an 11th or 12th team. But there also has to be some sort of can 12 teams race at Monaco? Right?
Mm.
I think there has to be some sort of what does that do to racing, the actual sport that I watch for 2 hours on a Sunday? Will that change that? Of course, they're the teams, they're interested in the business, but I am not necessarily interested in how much money Mercedes makes because it won't be enough to help Williams no matter how much it is. So I don't know what an 11th or 12th team does, but find yourself some Larrys, no Andretti's, get 2 more teams. It seems fine. I don't know if there's a reason why not, other than the business side of it.
It'll be interesting because it's the breakdown of money, right? So they have 10 teams, they break the money. They don't want to dilute the money and the prize money by 11 ways. So they're definitely against that. But I think Eddie everywhere, they've kind of put him in a box. He came out, kind of tried to be large and in charge, then got drunk at the FI prize giving, had a battle of words with Christian Horner, and it was embarrassing as hell. Then he had the whole thing about women, and then they kind of sat him down and put him on the back burner and had him working. Now he's trying to have some bravado and make some big boy decisions. And it'll be interesting to see if he gets this by F1 and Stefano. I don't know that they will, but we'll see.
Maybe Jean Todt was onto something.
Maybe.
Oh, and speaking of Jean Todt, did you see that he
got married?
Yeah.
After all these years, she finally made an honorable man out of him.
That's right. That's right.
It's about time.
So, yeah, congratulations to those kids.
Yeah.
I love that I found out about it because Jean Todt posted that his son Felipe Massa already spilled the beans. So, I guess it can be official that he's married to
I like the
Michelle
picture.
Yeoh.
They were like getting married, and then there's a picture of them in bed.
Yeah.
Okay, whoa, Sean. whoa. Just a picture of the ceremony's fine. Didn't need the honeymoon in bed. All right?
This isn't Game of Thrones, man. We don't need to see that.
Exactly.
We believe you. It's fine.
There's something about the idea of Jean Todt in bed I don't need to put to my head. I don't need that kind of middle scoring. I can't afford the 12-step help program to get out of that.
Nobody, and with the Band-Aids on his fingers, nobody wants that.
Yeah, I can't do that. Because he'd be in bed with a jumper, and he would.
Oh, yeah, the red jumper. I'm sure he still has one somewhere, and he's just like,
the
red jumper. But I mean, I agree. I think Ben Silliam tried to make a name for himself. I mean, I think that's the thing.
Did.
Like when you get a new boss, right? They come in and they're like guns blazing, like I'm gonna change this place, I'm gonna do everything, and it's gonna be my way, and you guys just don't like change, and I know what's best for all of you. Or you have the boss that's like, hey, I'm just gonna kind of chill here for a minute. I'm gonna get the feel for it, get your ethos. I have some ideas.
He came in both barrels blazing.
Oh, absolutely.
He was large and in charge. There's a new sheriff in town, and the teams in F1 said, "Shut up and sit down, son. You're embarrassing."
Which is what happens with that kind of boss, in my opinion, as a staff member, that you're just like, you're a big dum-dum and none of us like you. So this is great. Like, just sit, have a seat. We've been here for a while. So
it's just, I think they all went, shh, the adults are talking.
Yeah. So I think that he is trying to push it because it benefits him to push it. And of course, the teams are going to say no, but
he needs a legacy, Grace.
I don't know. Have kids, I guess.
I don't know. All
Stay
right,
out of my sport.
Ready for the next one?
Oh, sure.
Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff shows off huge cast after summer break accident. Yes, he was mountain biking and broke his left arm. Didn't he do this last time? It's like he goes on a summer break and hurts himself.
Was he hanging out with Lance? I mean,
I don't know. But I think this is the second time he's gone on a summer break and hurt himself in a biking accident.
Susie, what are you doing? Wrap that man up in some bubble wrap.
I mean, look, you're of an age, son. Things don't bend anymore. Take it from me.
I think that's everybody over the age of 25. Like,
yeah, right.
You don't heal as fast. Right. You look at a drink and the next day you have a headache. Like it never gets easier. So
right.
Just let it go, man. Try something different.
Water polo.
Yeah.
Let's see. Finally, sacked F1 boss in bizarre 9 pregnant women claim as he fumes at team chiefs.
Okay, that headline is amazing.
It is amazing.
Like, I mean, I know
a bizarre 9 pregnant women comment.
I think it's a relatively common turn of phrase. It's not like he invented it. I still like that you can't have 2 popes at a team. Right? Like that was my favorite one from Alpine, like, or talking about Aston Martin and Larry, right? Like you can't have two popes. What are they thinking? So that was great. So this one was great too. I love that Otmar just has like a random, quote generator or something.
He
That's
does.
great.
He does. Let's see. Let's do some mailbag.
You've got mail.
Miles asks this, Grace.
All right.
Current standings behind Red Bull are Merc 247, Aston Martin 196, Ferrari 191, McLaren 103, Alpine 57, Williams 11, Haas 11, Alfa Romeo 9, Alfa Tauri 3. How do you see the standings at the end of the year? Do you think McLaren can catch any of those ahead of them, and can Williams hold on to 7th?
All right. So we'll take the McLaren question first, since that's the first one you posed.
Okay.
No. It really pains me. Like, I think the answer is no. I mean, unless
they're 90 points adrift.
I think that's a lot of ground to make up on your own. Like, so even if McLaren does really well with the last 10 races or whatever we have left, right? Because we're a little bit beyond halfway, I think. So even if they do great in the next 10 races and that McLaren is truly on an upswing, which I never believe in, but maybe they really are on an upswing. This is the time I should have faith in they're on an upswing. I still don't think they can make up 90 points unless Aston and Ferrari fall completely down the other way.
Right.
And I don't think there's any reason that Ferrari's going to do that. I mean, Ferrari is going to continue to be like third as always, shooting themselves in the foot, be donkey of the race, but they're not going to lose 90 points. And I think that Aston, I mean, they didn't do well at Turkey, but then they turned it around at Spa. So I think that I have a little more faith in Aston Martin than I did coming out of Turkey for sure. So I don't think they're going to lose 90 points either. So I just don't think mathematically it's going to be possible for McLaren to catch either of them.
I think the real race is going to be the last 4 teams.
Yeah, because they only have like 4 points between them.
Yeah.
And so do I think Williams can keep 7th? Yes, I do. I think Williams is on a real upswing. I think James Vowles has really done well for them, and Alex Albon's done really well. And I think we're finally seeing Logan Sargent turn that corner. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
It's never going to be, the first year is never going to be easy. But I do think you're really starting to see progress out of Logan Sargent, and he's definitely just not crashing at every race. So I think Williams is gonna keep it. I think they'll be the head of the back marker teams.
Yeah, I do too.
Come the end.
Good question, Miles. All right. That does it for this episode, this podcast. But we're going to come back and do it again next week because, there's 4-week break. So it will be podcast 850. And we'll be back next week. In the meantime, go to the website, theparcfermé.com. Share your opinion and just do it with decorum and civility. As always, don't make anyone read that comment of yours and go, what the hell? No personal attacks. Also, if you like the podcast, you can go over to your favorite podcast player. It could be Apple Music. Give us a really good rating. Give us some love over there. Appreciate it. As mentioned earlier, you can support us at Patreon. And a huge thank you to all of those who fill out and send us some mailbag. And a big thank you to all those that went and saw Paul at the IMSA race and got to chat with him. That was good.
Nice.
Yeah, that was really nice. So, all right. Well, until next week when we come back to do it all over again, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camper, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.